An AI built to translate a dead language did something nobody programmed it to do. It started guessing correctly. Whether it was reading a legal contract, an astrology report, or someone's private letter, nobody taught it that. The researchers didn't even notice until after the fact. Today, I'm breaking down exactly how that happened. Why a 4,000-year-old language was basically unreadable for over a century. And what this AI is now finding in texts nobody has opened since they were buried, including the part where the same AI admits, in its own results, exactly where it breaks. And a real case where one of these tablets ended up at the center of a federal smuggling investigation, hiding in plain sight as a box of tile samples, around 3200 BCE, in the floodplain between the Tigris and Euphrates, modern-day Iraq. The Sumerians invented cuneiform, wedge-shaped marks pressed into wet clay with a cut reed. Not pictures, not simple for sun or water. A full system, capable of recording law, prophecy, debt, and personal complaints. Thousands of years before anyone else on Earth had a word for writing at all. It's one of only 4 writing systems in human history invented completely from scratch, with no outside influence. Nearly everything you've ever read, in any alphabet, traces back in some tangled way to a handful of moments like this one. The dominant language written in it, Akkadian, was the tongue of Hammurabi and Sargon of Akkad, and it's been dead for 2,000 years. Nobody has spoken it natively since before the fall of Rome, and somewhere in the last 2 centuries, we dug up over 500,000 tablets written in it. They're sitting in museum basements in London, Berlin, Chicago, Baghdad, Jerusalem. Catalogued. Mostly untranslated. And these tablets are worth more, to the wrong people, than you'd think. In 2010, the arts and crafts retailer Hobby Lobby paid $1.6 million for a shipment of roughly 450 cuneiform tablets and 3,000 clay seals smuggled out of Iraq through the UAE and Israel, with customs paperwork describing the boxes as ceramic tile samples. U.S. Customs eventually caught it. In 2017, Hobby Lobby forfeited the entire haul and paid a $3 million fine. One of the tablets in that same seized collection turned out to be an actual fragment of the Epic of Gilgamesh, a piece of the oldest story ever written, sitting in a warehouse, shipped like flooring samples. That's how much weight a piece of clay with the right marks on it can carry, even in 2026. And yet, worldwide, fewer than 300 people alive can actually read Akkadian fluently. 500,000 tablets, 300 readers. That math alone explains why most of ancient Mesopotamia has simply never been read by modern eyes. You'd think we'd solved this already, the way we solved hieroglyphs. We didn't, because we got lucky with hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone handed scholars the same message written in a language they already knew. Cuneiform never got that gift. There's no bilingual cheat sheet, no convenient decree carved twice in 2 scripts. Scholars rebuilt this language sign by sign, over more than 100 years, with nothing to compare it to. And cuneiform fights back in ways hieroglyphs never did. A single wedge sign can mean a whole word, a syllable, or something entirely different depending on context, and that meaning can shift again depending on the century, the city, or the individual scribe holding the reed. In 2023, a team from Tel Aviv University and Ariel University built the first practical AI translator for Akkadian cuneiform. Feed it a transliterated tablet, get English out, in seconds. But reading the actual wedge marks off a cracked 5,000-year-old surface is a separate, harder problem. It's less like reading a sentence and more like reading someone's water-damaged handwriting from a language you've never seen. That's what ProtoSnap, unveiled in April 2025 by researchers at Cornell and Tel Aviv University, was built to solve. The trick is almost elegant. They trained the model first on the earliest, cleanest ancestor forms of each cuneiform sign, essentially teaching it the alphabet's own family tree, then let it learn how those same signs warped, thinned, and degraded across 3,000 years of different scribes, regions, and where. Feed it a photo of a cracked, worn tablet, and instead of guessing blind, it can snap a damaged mark back to the family of signs it most likely belongs to. It reads damaged, rare, and ambiguous signs better than any previous machine system, and it does it at a scale no human team, however skilled, could ever match in a single lifetime. The researchers' own stated goal was to multiply the amount of accessible ancient text by 10. Not by finding new tablets, by finally being able to read the ones already sitting in storage. 10 times the ancient text humanity has ever had access to, sitting right there the whole time, just unreadable. But building an AI that reads cuneiform is one thing. What happened when researchers actually turned an AI translator loose on real tablets is the part nobody predicted, and it wasn't in the goals of the project at all. Here's what actually surprised the researchers. When the Tel Aviv team ran their AI translator against test tablets, they weren't just checking if the English came out correct. They were checking translation quality, and in doing that, they noticed something they never asked the model to do. The AI's output consistently carried the tone of whatever kind of document it was reading. A legal contract read like a legal contract. An astrology report read like an astrology report. A private letter read like a private letter, even when the word-for-word translation wasn't perfect. Nobody built that in. Nobody labeled genre during training as a goal. The model simply absorbed it, the same way it absorbed grammar and vocabulary, because the patterns of formality, rhythm, and structure in Akkadian legal language versus Akkadian personal correspondence are apparently distinct enough that a machine picked up on the feel of the writing before a human confirmed what it was reading, and this wasn't a fluke on one lucky tablet. When the team scored their model on standard translation quality benchmarks, it landed in the high 30s out of 100 on both transliteration to English and raw cuneiform to English tests, comfortably inside the range professional human translators consider genuinely usable, not just a novelty. So the genre recognition wasn't an isolated party trick buried in one anecdote. It showed up consistently, across a model that was already translating well enough to be useful. And here's the part that actually makes this more credible, not less. The same researchers were upfront that this didn't work everywhere. On formulaic legal and administrative texts, the AI performed well. On literary and poetic material, letters from priests, more expressive writing, it sometimes produced what the researchers bluntly called total hallucinations. Output that was fluent, confident, and completely unconnected to what the tablet actually said. Quick lock-in before we go further. Cuneiform, humanity's first writing system, invented from nothing, 3200 BCE. Akkadian, dead for 2000 years. 500,000 tablets, fewer than 300 human readers. Then AI arrives, a working translator in 2023, Proto-Snap in 2025 reading even damaged signs. And somewhere in testing it, researchers found their model had quietly learned to recognize genre by tone alone, while still hallucinating outright on poetry. Both real. Both documented, zoom out, and the real story isn't one clever result. It's what a tool like this means at scale. Over 150 years of human scholarship has only ever reached a fraction of the 500,000 tablets sitting in collections worldwide, most of them never translated, some of them never even read since the day they were dug out of the ground. If Proto-Snap and the systems built after it genuinely deliver anywhere close to a tenfold increase in readable material, that's not a handful of new discoveries. That's potentially the largest expansion of accessible ancient evidence since the Rosetta Stone itself, nearly 2 centuries ago. Legal codes, trade records, personal disputes, religious texts, entire administrative systems that have been sitting untouched since they were written, waiting on nothing more than the brutal ratio of readers to tablets to finally change. Take the Babylonian astronomical diaries as one real example. For roughly 600 years, from around 650 BCE to 60 BCE, Babylonian astronomers recorded the sky almost every single night, moon positions, planetary movements, eclipses, alongside the price of barley and wool on any given day, and major political events happening in the city. Most of those tablets sit in the British Museum. Many are still fragments, still being pieced back together, still not fully translated after more than a century. If you want to see whether it cracks the same way Akkadian just did, subscribe so you don't miss it, and in the comments, given that this AI nails legal texts but hallucinates on poetry, what's the first type of tablet you'd want it to tackle next? Trade records, court disputes, or personal letters? I'll pin the best answer and it's going straight into that video. Someone pressed their thoughts into wet clay 4,000 years ago, hoping someone, someday, would understand them. Turns out the thing that finally did wasn't human, and it's already telling us exactly where it still gets it wrong.